In the last video, we started to add some of these materials, and now we can continue with it. So what I did in the last video is I added these squares, okay, for this background flooring that I have for my model. And then what I want to do is I want to give my model a material too as well, okay. I've always, envisioned this to have, maybe a glass type of material to it. And I can give it a color, so let's say a dark red glass, okay? And I'm going to click on my model, and I'm going to assign it to my selection, okay? Now, with yours, you might have different layers, okay, that you have your objects onto. So you might have to select those objects, and then assign it to selection that way, and you might have to work with your layers a little bit more, turning them on and off and then selecting them and assigning them that way too as well. And you'll also find, as you can see now, that this is where it starts to use up a lot more memory with AutoCAD, and it can start to slow down a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly, again, just do a little rendering to see what it looks like. And again, as I said, this is a draft, okay, so it's, not great quality at all. Okay, if I want to bump it up, let's say I want a medium, okay, I can select medium and go into render, and you'll see that now it's going to start to do multiple passes through the model in the way that it generates the look of it. Okay, so it might do one little pass through, and then it's going to do another, and possibly a third, or a fourth even at this point. But you can see it's just, with each sweep, it's starting to fine tune it more and more. Okay, so it looks like it does need to do at least one more. And now this should be the final one. And again, this is where it takes a while, because not only is it taking more time to start to render it, okay, you'll see that my drafts took 8, 9, 11 seconds. This is going to take more. And you might find that your materials might not be reacting to the light so much. It's not really about adding more light. It's more about the materials reacting to the light. So I always find that an inverse to how I look at this, how traditionally you start to think about rendering, materials and lights. It's, in this case, it's not so much about the lights, okay, and adjusting the lights. It's more about adjusting the materials. Okay, so this is going through and going through and going through. Okay, and as you see, for this one, now it took over 2 minutes in order to render. Okay, so, and again, if ever I want to go back and save any of these, okay, I can always right-click on it here, go to save. You can also go up to File and save there too as well. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to add a background. Okay, so what we saw with my the sky is that it adds the sky to the background, but there might be a sky that I want to add myself. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google Images. Okay, and this is my disclaimer that if something comes up and pops up that shouldn't, okay, not my fault. Okay, I'm not going to take responsibility for anything that I find on Google. Okay, so I'm going to type in sky images. Okay, thank goodness nothing bad came up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of these images, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to right-click on it.
Has been detected.
Oh, antivirus. And I'm going to do a save image as, and I'm going to save it where I can find it. So I'm going to save it on my desktop in my AutoCAD class files. and hit save. Okay. And then now what I want to do is I want to add this image to my background. And the way that we have to do it is we have to add it through the views. So I'm going to go back to my view ribbon here. Okay. And I'm going to go into my view manager. Okay. So you'll see that if I expand this, I have my preset views, which is my top, bottom, left, right, you know, so on and so forth. And what I also have are my custom ones. Okay, there's view 1 and there's camera 1. And so, for example, if I want to add it to, well, let's say let's create a view first, okay, and go through this process again in order to see the background. So say, for example, I want to have a view of it like this, seeing that background, okay, and the sky in the background. So I'm going to just adjust my view, okay, like that. And I'm going to create a new view. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to create view 2 and hit OK. Okay, so now what you'll see is that also added it to the list along with view 1 and camera 1. So I'm going to go back into my view manager and I'm going to click on view 2. And now what it's going to do, it's going to give me some options, okay? And one of them is background override, okay? And in that location, that's where I'm going to set my background image. So I'm going to expand this list, and I'm going to go to edit. You can see that it also has solid. I can pick a solid color for my background. It has gradient. I can pick a gradient, okay? I can pick colors like that. And I also have sun and sky. So I do have, you know, an option of putting a sun and the sky in there. Or what I can do is I can put in my own. So I'm going to say image, and it's going to ask me to browse for my image. So I'm going to click on browse. I'm going to find my sky. Okay, and then what I can do is I can adjust it. So if I can adjust the scale if I want. Okay, or I can adjust the offset so that I can rotate it. But what I want to do is I want to adjust my scale so that it shows the whole thing. And what I want to do is I want to maintain the aspect ratio, basically keeping the proportions of it when I scale it. Okay, so I want to scale it so that none of the white is showing. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to click on OK again. I'm going to make sure that that's image and click on OK. So that when I go click on my view 2 again, okay, and again, give it a second. Okay, click on my view 2, it should show up in the background. Okay, and it's probably having a hard time. And this is on my desktop, so this isn't even on my laptop, and this is how much the 3D is suffering with my desktop. So, you know, you will see that it in this process it might slow it down. So you'll see that my image is in the background there, and then when I go to my render and I click on my render, you'll see that now it renders it with that background. And because, you know, these materials are reflective, okay, they're going to take on the colors of that background image too as well. And you'll see that they do have texture to them that are modeled into them, so that when I render them, you can see that they also have a texture to the glass. Okay, so, and again, you'll see that now when I add this, okay, it's going to take more time to render. So about a minute and 53 seconds later, this is what I've gotten. Okay, and what you'll find is that, you know, this gets really, really dark in the middle. So this is where I might want to start to adjust my materials. So I'm going to exit out of my render window, and, you know, I'm going to find, let's say, another material to assign to my project. Okay, and again, I'm just using this to, you know, to get you a look at, you know, what it's going to look like. Okay, with switching these materials, you know, again, you know, it just might be a case where you just have to, you know, kind of switch like the material properties or what type of material it is, or, you know, the way that it's rendered in order to give it to come out the way that you want it to. Okay, so I'm going to go to assign to selection, and it should do so. And now when I render it, again, it's going to pause a little bit. It might give me an issue like this a little bit. It looks a little funny, so I'm going to do a regenerate. There it pops up again. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to render it presentation format. Okay, you'll see that, you know, it starts to get a little weird when it starts to, you know, get a little heavier. Okay, when the modeling file gets a little bit heavier. So actually my render presets, I can't see them right now because they seem to have disappeared. But I'll render that again. Okay, and you'll see how that material, okay, is starting to change the way that this looks. Okay, and I'm just going to do it a little bit because you can already see just by changing the material there that it's, you know, actually starting to change in appearance. Okay, and you'll see that it also takes on the reflectivity of those materials there. So I'm going to stop this because I don't want to continue further with it. But what I do want to do is I want to start to add some custom materials.